Thanks for joining us once again on another edition of Hude Progress Report. As always, we are taking a look at the rate of progress across different aspects of solutions being deployed across the world to ensure sustainable development. As always, I remain Amadine Ogbewe. Welcome once again.
And I'm Hannah Omokafe Dennis. Good morning.
And also with us here is Paul Oladipupo. He joins us to break things down. Hello, Paul.
I guess you're one of those persons that pronounce my name and it tends to smell. Good morning.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Paul Oladipupo.
I heard the same thing. Well, anyway, the devil is in the details, and that's what we're doing here today. So let's get straight into our first news item of the day. Now, the development of renewable energy is projected to significantly boost Indonesia's economic growth, potentially reaching up to 8% annually by 2029. According to the Institute for Essential Services Reform, that is the IESR, this optimistic outlook shared by IESR Executive Director Fabi Tomiwa also highlights the substantial potential for new job creation. A study by the IESR indicates that transition to clean energy could generate 3.6 million green jobs across the archipelago by 2050, requiring a skilled workforce adept in renewable energy technologies and operational systems. Tomiwa emphasized the cost-effectiveness of renewable sources like solar, wind, and biomass compared to conventional power plants currently prevalent in Indonesia. He further pointed out the potential for Indonesia to save a remarkable 15 to 20 billion US dollars annually in foreign exchange by switching to renewable energy. This substantial savings, if reinvested, could have a transformative impact on critical sectors such as education, health, and regional economic development, as stated by Tomiwa during the launch of a study on 100% renewable energy-based islands on Monday. In light of these benefits, IESR recommends that the Indonesian government accelerate the adoption of clean energy with a particular focus on solar power plants. He also noted that the significant decrease in solar power component prices over the past decade and highlighted advancements in battery storage technology, which now offers reliable electricity supply to remote areas and small islands. This technological progress is crucial for ensuring equitable energy distribution across the diverse Indonesian landscape. However, IESR also cautioned against the continued dominance of fossil fuel-based conventional energy, which remains expensive, vulnerable to weather disruptions, and heavily reliant on extensive distribution infrastructure. This reliance contributes to uneven energy distribution, as exemplified by power crises on small islands like Enggano, where electricity is only available for 12 hours a day, leading to adverse economic impacts. The report implicitly underscores the urgency for Indonesia to overcome these hurdles and fully embrace its renewable energy potential. There's a lot to cover there and break down, and I think that's some of the most interesting parts of this is the progress being made.
Yes.
Now, Indonesia is on the path, and we see from that report that a lot can be done, and they could really be entering the next phase of their power, will I call it revolution, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear of a place like Enggano, one of the islands, having 12 hours of electricity, and it's stated as just 12 hours of electricity, it indicates that there is so much potential for more, because in a lot of places, 12 hours is probably seen as
luxury.
Huge. Yes. So to take into account some examples, let's use Kenya. Kenya has had an aggressive electrification process in the last decade or so, couple of years. And it has led to them having over 90% of the power supply being renewable energy. Overall energy access or electricity access is about 80-something%. And it just shows that when there is concerted efforts to push these agendas that align with the Sustainable Development Goals, you see that you're going to see progress and it's going to work for the people. Where Kenya currently is now, It's a place a lot of people aspire to be, but there's still a lot of dependence on fossil fuels. But we're seeing now that it can work. When we're talking about progress here, it's always good to note that no matter how humongous a problem is, if a version of it or something else is being solved somewhere, it's an indication that it can work also wherever else that may be. And another exciting part for me is the fact that these disruptions lead to more jobs. Now, you might say, what's going to happen to people in the oil and gas sector? I mean, it's still going to be, to an extent, thriving for a while because we know how that sector is. But if at the end of the day, renewable energy does become what completely takes over and is able to be sustainable, jobs are also being created. We have millions of jobs projected to come from Indonesia continuing their renewable energy push, which we also saw in Kenya as well. And it also goes to the issue of just transition. When you are moving from fossil fuels to renewable energy, you don't just want to do it in a way that people are left stranded or in a way that is not just to some people who have predominantly depended on it, those industries, those people, because at the end of the day, those are human beings as well. But when a just transition is followed, as suggested by the United Nations and every other bodies involved with renewable energy, you see that jobs are created. At the end of the day, the earth is being saved, environment is working, and those who might have been affected are still carried along and they are not left behind in the wake of any sudden shift from one energy to another.
Yes. And I would like to add that the other day we had a report from UN, the UN Global Report, saying that it's 5 years to 2030 and yet we still have a lot of gaps to cover. But right here, I dare to say that this is progress. So in a country like Indonesia with over 17 islands, spread across the several parts, you get to see that some industry out there is trying to push for this sustainable goal to be met. And this clean energy is in Sustainable Development Goal 7 and also Climate Action 6, 13. Yes, if I'm very correct. And this goes to show that no matter what's happening, at least by 2029, we should have reached maybe like 80% when it comes to SDG 7 and SDG 13 as regards green energy and climate action. So this is something that is worthy enough to be applauded, worthy enough to be clapped for. And also when it comes to job creations, this is something because there are lots of people who would say, oh, this is just for people who went to formal schools. But then people also in informal, environments or informal sectors will also benefit from this. Technicians, whether you went to study it at school or you didn't study it at school, but you know one or two things there, this is also going to help you to be able to feed yourself, feed your family and everything. And this leads to economic growth of not just that society, but you yourself, your immediate environment and everything. So this is beautiful.
Yeah, like it's talking about economic growth, right? With this transition, it's expected that their economy should grow at to like 8% annually by 2020 by 2029, and that's actually very wonderful to see. And also talking about economy, still, it's also they're going to be saving a very large amount of money. Talking about the money that is spent on fossil fuels, they're spending about 15 to 20 billion now at the moment, so they are going to be saving that, and it might be that they are saving it, right? But they are going to redirect such funds into different other markets. And that thing again that is very interesting for me to see, to also mention here, is the fact that they've also set a goal for 2030, talking about transitioning into more EV vehicles being on ground in Indonesia. And that's actually that's another wonderful one again to see, because I think at the moment now they have about 2000 that's around 2,400 charging points, EV charging points, and they're expected to grow that amount to about 32,000 in the next 5 years, and that's really wonderful. That's about 1.3. I really just did the math now, and it's really amazing to see that they are really forward thinking and looking at how best to save the environment and also do things that are actually best for the environment. And also talking about jobs, we're expecting to see that the green job market actually booms in the coming years. Is expected to create about 3.6 million jobs by 2050. That's a very low. That's a number of families that is going to feed, a lot of people that is going to feed, and probably a lot of people that are going to go above the poverty line as well. Let's take a look at this verified voice and see what our verified voices he said on this one, talking about the EV vehicles and things, the opportunities that it's going to create for those that are there in Indonesia. Indonesia to install battery plants creates 8,000 jobs. The new facility will form part of an expanding industrial hub. That include a universal seaport plus 17 additional infrastructure projects. The battery production facility will manufacture batteries for electric vehicles and is a joint project between China and Indonesia, due to open in 2026. And that's a wonderful one there. And actually, it's 8,000 jobs is a lot. And I think another thing that is very important that I will notice is the fact that they are going to be partnering with China. And when it comes to technology, innovation, China is one of those leading countries.
Particularly in green energy.
Exactly.
China, as much as they contribute a lot to the carbon footprint or the emissions, they also are one of those driving particularly highly the renewable energy drive, the solar panels, solar energy, and so much. So when you see these collaborations, you're seeing someone who is a known name, or you can call it a big player in the renewable energy space, assisting another one.
Let's not forget one of our African countries too, Burkina Faso. As much as we're not so big on this, or we are still growing, they are doing something like that. The other day I was watching a documentary and I saw that across the states, across the countries, they were charging points where electric cars, not just electric cars, but solar panel cars could be able to charge without using fuels or anything while they are moving around. So that's a very big positive part too.
And, okay, go ahead.
Also, in terms of policy, right, we're expecting some shifts in policies right there in Indonesia, and one of such is solar panel deployment into some isolated areas. So all of these things at the end of the day will come together for the good of Indonesia, and probably by next year they'll be even leading the charts when it comes to SDG and those that are on track to 2030.
Yeah,
indeed. I was going to bring that up. Talking about the power reaching certain places. You already pointed out Indonesia has a number of islands, and I think we've seen this in other countries as well. I think Kenya also, and where we have certain places that are sort of isolated from and so they are not part of the main grid, and so it requires innovative solutions where we see off-grid solutions, mini grids, and all of that. And like we said before, Nigeria is also on that path. When it comes to the Mission 300 being by the AFDB and other partners to ensure that 300 million Africans get power, we understand that these are parts of the innovations that we're seeing. And then particularly back to the issue of the islands, it's that it makes sense that a country like this that has this geographical arrangement already would key into this, because automatically it helps them, achieve their goals while using what their geography provides. You don't have to. This is what we talk about: solutions being tailored to the specific people. So we're not seeing in solutions that would work somewhere, perhaps where there's a sparse land where there's space all around and everybody's not isolated and all of that. So it's interesting to see that particularly this works well for Indonesia. And even the island that we talked about, I think Engano with 12 hours. Who knows? After all this is done,
24 hours.
In fact, I'll also be expecting that these developments spread across the rest of Southeast Asia. Talking about other places that are around them, probably Malaysia, Thailand, and the rest of members of the ASEAN.
Indeed. Anyway, that's how we round up our first news item. We'll go on a break. When we return, we'll delve into our final one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, Omokafe will take the next news item.
Okay, the next one is 29 government and judicial officials from 11 Caribbean and Latin American countries are taking concrete steps towards modernizing their justice systems. They participated in a 3-day course, Building Digital Foundations for Justice Transformation, held in June 2025 in Bridgetown, led by the United Nations Development Programme's UNDP Digital Capacity Lab in collaboration with the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, and funded by the European Union through the Global Gateway Initiative and the PACE Justice Project. The intensive program aims to equip participants with the knowledge and tools necessary to drive digital transformation in courts, legal services, and public justice systems. The training focused on 5 essential pillars of digital transformation: governance, infrastructure, regulation, business, processes, and people development, providing a robust framework for enhancing transparency and reducing case backlogs. The UNDP digital officer underscored the urgency, stating justice systems worldwide face increasing pressure from case backlogs, limited digital infrastructure, and rising demands for efficient service. UNDP Deputy Resident Representative for Barbados, Stephanie Ziel, and the Eastern Caribbean highlighted the initiative's significance, noting recent deliveries of IT hardware and digital recording systems to Caribbean courts to improve efficiency. The capacity building effort is part of a broader commitment to digital transformation in the region. UNDP has also hosted a regional workshop on AI and digital transformation in criminal justice, directly supporting the implementation of the NIDAM's Points Declaration on Criminal Justice Reform. Crucially, this project aligns with Sustainable Development Goal 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions, by strengthening judicial systems and promoting equitable access to justice for all citizens. The Bridgedown course is a 4 key components of a larger 4 million capacity development for digital transformation initiative. This broader program, recently launched by ITU, UNDP, and the European Union, is designed to strengthen the capacity of policymakers and government officials globally to lead human-centric digital transformation across the entire public sector, ensuring more efficient and accessible services for communities worldwide. Again, this is a very good progress when it comes to justice systems around the world, not just in the Caribbean country that this was done. UNDP, first of all, is known for ensuring that there is intentional development across the state, ensuring that there's reduced poverty, ensuring that there's also peace and unity across the state, and also building resilience. And when a country's justice system has been built to become strong, to become sustainable, to become trustworthy, and I see that that particular environment, that particular country will become very strong enough. The people itself will trust that particular system enough that whenever something happens to me, whenever something happens to Amadi or happens to Paul right here, we know that we can trust the justice system in that court and that they're reliable and fast enough. And seeing that right now the justice system is embracing technology. You know, a lot of people might say, oh, technology can do this, can do that when it comes to look at artificial intelligence. But right now we are looking at how this artificial intelligence and other things can be able to grow, should I say, positivity in ourselves, to grow resilience, to grow positive, should I say, positive works when it comes to the justice system. So it can be faster, it can be more reliable. We can, instead of using pens and papers to note down points whenever the lawyers or the barristers right there are arguing for their clients in courts, rather we can have it being recorded and can have it being played, and that's faster and that's better for the judges to be able to not have backlog cases whenever they are reviewing cases and the rest of it. So this is applaudable, this is beautiful, and I hope that it will spread across several continents and not just in the Caribbean, just as they have said that there is already budgets for this thing that will spread across countries. So international development, intentional development, building peace, justice, and also reducing poverty and building resilience. So yeah.
Indeed, and I think it's important that the government is really front and center when you're carrying them along, because obviously when it comes to the justice system, it's not something in the hands of private individuals. So that being said, some of the things that are being looked at is even, there was a workshop on AI and digital transformation in criminal justice. So when this happens, it prepares the government and officials for what's to come. I remember having a discussion and, some experts in the field said, well, technically, AI has been around for a while. It's not something maybe that began or was discovered, say 2-3 years ago, even though it might have begun to gain relevance in this time, but it's been around for a while. So what happens when you do trainings and you prepare people for this is you are putting them ahead of time so they are ready to face things. Now, we've had a recent upsurge in some unethical use of artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to women and others online. Things are being made. The information disorder is rampant. So when you factor in how this could affect the justice system, it is important to be ahead of the curve, to not wait for things to happen and then try to react. But then you plan. While the organizational parts of this are being done, where they are working on how to use technology to improve the processes, to ensure that things go smoothly. Even during COVID, we saw remote
jobs.
Remote. I'm even talking about remote justice processes where trials or court processes were held on Zoom, online, so to speak. So that has happened. But you also need to prepare for possible dangers. What happens when we have to start taking extra look at evidence, where the evidence could be doctored
or not
through AI? You have to prepare for that. And I think that's is part of, because it's called digital transformation, AI and digital transformation in criminal justice. So how to counter it, how to use it for good, how to also prepare if others should use it negatively. And I think this all forms the discussion and forms the training. And I hope that was some of the key takeaways there, so that at the end of the day, we know that our courts are becoming ready to tackle these challenges even before they arrive. So I think it's a commendable effort to do this training. And I just hope for sustainability, so that, there are some specific workshops where it's called Train the Trainer. So it's like people from different organizations, we are training you so that you go back and train your organization. So the people from the government as well, if you're coming from a magistrate court, or you're the head of another court or another, it's expected that you should take it back, and then your whole process should develop, and not just that it goes away with you, so to speak.
Yeah, we're talking about SDG 16. That's peace, justice, and stronger institutions. And that's what we're seeing here, trying to build an institution of justice so that it's strong and resilient to all of these things that are coming. There's no doubt that AI has been in vogue and has been around the corners, making rounds here and there. But it's also important to us that this breeds the conversation of ethical use of AI. How best should we use AI? What can we use AI for? And what we should not use it for? Where do we cross the line? And all of those things. And I feel like very soon we should be seeing more legal reviews on the ethical use of AI. But in the meantime, it's wonderful to see that now they're going to be using some tech support in some Caribbean courts there, and to tools like recording devices and also hardwares as well. And it's really amazing, because I think there was a time that we were discussing about how courts proceedings is always like, and then you're like, some judges have to write down everything that is being said. And this makes the whole process easier, because again, it's now all turns to what I write down versus what you think you said. And so, but with AI and also recording devices, everyone is on the clear that this is what I said and this is what was heard by everyone. And it's really amazing to see. And also, we should also applaud the EU as well for providing funds for all of these kind of things, because I mean, it's a lot to provide, and I think these are around 4 million euros, and that's a number of money. Let's take a look at these verified voices quickly to see what our verified voices are saying on this particular matter. We're still talking about SDG 16, access, peace, justice, and also stronger institution. This here says that for years, citizens have demanded a justice system that guarantees rights, acts efficiently, and above all, provide reparations to victims. That demand is beginning to become a reality with unanimous approval of justice reform, a commitment to a criminal justice system that prioritizes restorative justice and strengthens the principle of opportunity, a reform that paves the way towards a more humane, accessible, and transformative justice system. I mean, this just sums it all. Exactly. We're talking about there are a number of cases back. When you talk about backlogs, it means that someone that probably was just meant to spend maybe 2 nights in jail or 10 days in jail is now spending months in jail for a crime that is very minimal in some cases. So now we should be looking at all of those things and seeing how we can try to mitigate all of those backlogs. And also, I think another important one again is to improve transparency, because you mentioned that there are some people that don't trust the justice system. And that is why we have SDG 16 to ensure that people have access to justice and not just that are able to trust the system. And I think that's SDG 16 3.3 talks about access to justice and breaks all of these things down. And it's really amazing to see what exactly is happening right now in Caribbean and also Latin America.
There was a particular word that was used by this particular program. It says human-centric. So it means that all of the reports are going to ensure that humans are put at the forefront of it. So Amadi mentioned something that we are saying that evidence that are going to be brought may be doctored. So this particular people who have been trained will be able to recognize when a particular evidence is doctored or not, and whether it's just to be used against a particular human who has been placed in front of them or not. So this is really beautiful, and we hope that we'll see more of this in other countries, even in our country here in Nigeria.
Indeed, and just so we don't overlook it, the main concept is just to transform the justice system, which just to an extent can mean mostly making the structures or making the processes simpler, making them easier and faster.
Down.
When it comes to filing, I mean, there in some situations, people even get lost in the system.
Yes.
That is to say, you are within the system, but there's no record that you are there.
The system,
and
yes.
Probably you're a missing person somewhere. On the flip side, it could even be civil cases where you are given a date 3 years from now because the judges are overtaxed, and they have so much to contend with. The other day I saw the video of a certain courtroom in an African country where it was basically flooded, or not, if not fully flooded. The roofs were leaking, and the lawyers just had to keep doing what they were doing in that instance. So in a way, some of these things can even go as far as then affecting your mental health and how you perform your duties and your job, especially for those who are trying to defend people pro bono. Going through some of these things, it doesn't help. So overall, it's also good for the government to see into possibility of efficient systems and then just mimic it, copy it, tweak where you need to, and ensure that your system is more sanitized and easier to traverse.
Exactly. I know that this is happening in the Caribbean and also Latin America.
Yes.
Other countries are also can copy from what they are doing.
Yes.
I mean, it might not just be entirely what they are doing, but pick one or two things from what they are doing and then bring it to your own system and see which one works for you best and also impute into your system. And the goal is very simple, to ensure that all of our institutions are stronger.
Amadi mentioned something about the trainees training other people. So this can work for Caribbean and Latin American people who want to copy them. Yeah.
Indeed. Another example is India, and I believe some of the electronic processes they are trying to put in place for their courtrooms. So that's how we round off the segment, the program for today. Do join us next time on Hude Progress Report. We'll be bringing you more updates on the path to progress. Bye for now. See you next time. I am Amadine Ubewe.
And I'm Hannah Omokafe Danis. Stay progressive.
And I'm Paul Olatupo. Thanks for watching.